Hi, this is Steve Wagner with another quick lecture on leadership. Let's talk about leadership as relationship management. As a quick overview, I'll touch on the leader-member exchange model. Also talk about the process of leadership making and touch on organizational fairness as a key concept in maintaining relationships. We're familiar now with the leader-member exchange model, and this model says that leaders have different types of relationships with different subordinates, that some subordinates are viewed as more dependable and therefore get more communication, they get more involved, get more information, they have more influence. Those subordinates make up a leader's in-group. And there are other subordinates who are viewed as less compatible. They get less information, they have less influence, they are less involved. They may just come in, do the work, do their job, and go home, and not become very psychologically involved in the group. Now, I think this is a very interesting model because it is both descriptive and prescriptive. How is it descriptive? Well, I think that it's fairly realistic, and leaders do have some subordinates that they favor and some that they don't favor, and it may be for realistic reasons that leaders favor some of their subordinates. But the fact is that it's not optimal, and that the prescription is that we should enlarge that in-group, that we want everybody in the group to have influence, to be involved, and to be seen as an important part of the group. And so the prescriptive part is to expand that in-group and minimize the out-group. How is that done? Here's a quote from Harvey S. Firestone, the founder of Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. He said that the growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership. This is done through the process of leadership making. When I say leadership making, I'm not saying necessarily make everyone a leader, because leadership is more than just individual people being leaders. Remember, leadership is a process by which an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a goal. So when we are engaged in leadership making, we are making a process of influence for groups to achieve goals. We can enhance this process by having high quality exchanges with all subordinates in a group rather than just a few dependable people. That's really the easy way out, isn't it? Just to identify those few dependable and then have everybody else just kind of do their job. But it's not the most sustainable model. So this is a model for leadership making that was described in a book on leadership by Nordhaus. And what I like about it is that it acknowledges that we can't just automatically make everybody part of the in-group, that there is a matter of time over which relationships are built and maintained. And leaders need to pay attention to that. At times they must have patience. At times they must be persistent. They must understand that time is part of the process of leadership making. So in the first phase, our interactions with subordinates are generally pretty bound by the rules. It's pretty transactional. It's a contractual type of relationship. It is, if we remember that life cycle theory of Hersey and Blanchard, is we start out high in initiating structure. We relate to subordinates in the prescribed roles, and we are likely to have lower quality exchanges. Now, there's some value to having this phase, is that we should relate on a task-oriented level at first, but we have to understand that during this phase that subordinates will be more directed towards self-interest rather than the group. And so once a person knows their role, we need to get them to understand how that role fits into the larger group, how their work affects others and affects the mission of the group. In the second phase, which is the acquaintance phase, the leader offers some kind of opening here that for a social exchange that helps, that is career oriented, to say, I want you to take a bigger role in this organization and in our mission and in our purpose. And there's a testing period for both the subordinate and the leader. Is the subordinate really interested in the new role? Is the leader really willing to provide those opportunities and the development to have someone reach their potential? And so we start seeing a shift from a person just doing their job to actually offering new ways of relating within the space of that group. And the quality of the exchanges tends to improve as the trust is developed, as respect is developed, and subordinates tend to focus less on their self-interest and more on the goals of the group. In a mature partnership, here we have high-quality leader-member exchanges. And there's a high degree of mutual trust and respect, and there's an obligation towards each other. The relationship has been tested over time, and it's found to be dependable. There is a high degree of reciprocity. That means that you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And we can be confident and trust that the person will return the favors that are done. And so we can rely on each other for special assistance. There's a pattern of relating to each other that reinforces this trust. This is a model by which we can take subordinates who are in the out-group and move them towards this mature partnership. First, it acknowledges that we can't just do it in the snap of a finger, that it starts with a person knowing their role, and then there's an invitation to take a larger role and some testing of that, and over time it can build into this mature partnership. What should we be doing in sum? Well, we should be forming special relationships with each subordinate. We should be making that offer to become a larger part of the group. We should be nurturing these high quality relationships. It takes time to do that. Finally, we should be concentrating on not so much on the differences that different subordinates bring, but that there is this group goal, this superordinate goal that the entire work group must be striving towards. And if everybody is striving towards that, we can build trust and respect with all of the subordinates. Before we finish this out, though, I'd like to point out one other area here that I think is key to maintaining relationships, and this is the concept of fairness. There's different types of fairness, as we'll see in this class. There is fairness in process, there's fairness in how we distribute outcomes, there's interpersonal fairness, how we treat each other, there's fairness in the way that we communicate. Here I'm going to focus on procedural fairness, because I think it's a good lesson in why initiating structure is an undervalued form of leadership. And I think procedural fairness has a lot to do with initiating structure. If we want to build good relationships, people need to feel that there is fairness. This feeling of fairness builds trust, builds this sense of that I can rely on you to do the right thing. So when people are affected by some procedure or some decision, they should have the ability to express their views and feelings about that procedure. We call that voice. And there should be ways that individuals have some influence in that procedure so they can take some control over the procedure that gives them more ownership of that procedure. We should be careful that procedures are applied consistently and in a manner that's free from bias. So having formal written standards that are consistent is a good way of eliminating unfair politics when we're making decisions. We should be sure that we base decisions and we have procedures that work from accurate information. And so we need to get down to the information that really tells us about what we're trying to fix. We should design procedures so that if there is some mistake, that individuals have the ability to appeal the decision or the outcome of that procedure. And we should examine the procedures to see that they uphold the ethical and moral standards that are important. We should ask ourselves, would I be satisfied if this procedure or policy was enacted upon me? And again, it may seem like this is somewhat bureaucratic, but if fairness promotes trust, then it does build relationships. And by initiating a structure of fairness, we can build trust with our subordinates. As always, I like to provide you with the source material for these mini lectures. And so Jason Colquette's article on the dimensions of organizational justice is a fantastic article. The Grain and Cashman comes from our readings, and there is the book from Nordhaus that I also utilized for information here. So thank you.